Development for the seventh Final Fantasy began in 1995, 1 year after the release of 6. Square had been experimenting with the idea of a 3D RPG ever since 5 was released on the Super Famicom, and the demo at SIGGRAPH showed Square could shift its style forward a dimension. It just didn't reveal how. Nintendo's next-generation machine would be cartridge-based, and while its 64-bit system would be the most powerful on the market, cartridges with a great deal of memory were incredibly expensive to produce. Looking at its finances, and the concepts it was cooking for the next Final Fantasy, Square was forced to make a difficult decision. Saying goodbye to their sprites, and Nintendo, which had provided 2 generations of hardware for Square to revive itself with, the company announced on January 12, 1996, the series would continue exclusively on the Sony PlayStation. Square wouldn't release another game for a Nintendo console until Crystal Chronicles for the GameCube, 7 years later. The team Square assembled to tackle the project was 100 strong, one of the largest ever devoted to a single game's development. They had a budget of $45 million and cutting-edge film production tools like Power Animator and Soft Image 3D. Sony launched a $100 million advertising campaign to bring anticipation to a boil. Due to its extraordinary goals, the game's release date was pushed back almost a full year. On a new console with new technology and a concept that was a far cry from the themes its fans had grown to love, Square wasn't too far from where it had been almost 10 years earlier. Its next game would either boost it to superstardom or summon the imminent doom of the company. Final Fantasy VII was released in Japan on January 31, 1997, and American gamers had to go on hearing how amazing it was for another 9 months. Hironobu Sakaguchi remained at the helm, maintaining a lead production role. Yoshinori Kitase continued on from 6 to direct, and series veterans Yoshitaka Amano and Nobuo Uematsu returned to their usual duties. Kazushige Nojima assisted Sakaguchi and Kitase with the writing, and Tetsuya Nomura, who joined the team for 5, designed the characters for the first time. His manga style was deemed more compatible with the basic 3D structure of the game. While previous fantasies had you gradually enlist in forces struggling to save the world, 7 rushed you right into battle with a resistance group on a mission to destroy a toxic reactor. The self-absorbed swordsman Cloud Strife initially had little interest in joining the rebels, but if the pay was right, he was willing to hang around. A monopolizing megacorporation called the Shinra Electric Power Company was slowly sucking the life out of the planet, and freedom fighters known as Avalanche were the only ones willing to fight back. As an ex-member of Soldier, Shinra's squad of genetically enhanced elite warriors, Cloud was stuck fighting for the good guys whether he liked it or not. He was asked to sign up by his childhood friend Tifa, and bossed around by its outspoken leader Barrett. The small resistance army would grow to include the wild experiment Red 13, the bubbly thief Yuffie, the feline puppet Kate Sith, the shadowy gunfighter Vincent, and after rescuing her from Shinra headquarters, the spiritually serene Eris. For the most part, the game shared a point of view similar to PlayStation predecessor Resident Evil. There was a fixed camera and pre-rendered backgrounds. Polygonal characters moved where the environment would let them. One of Sakaguchi's main concerns with continuity was the moments between these scenes. In an attempt to cover loading times, many animations or short in-game cinemas were implemented. This began the time-honored tradition of the Final Fantasy in-game cutscene. Final Fantasy VII employed over 40 minutes of full-motion wonder, the most impressive use of video as a gaming tool for its time. In addition, there were a number of cinematic transitions which used the same models and backgrounds in the game that seamlessly blended them into the action. The battle window also gained cinematic enhancements. The camera was almost constantly moving, highlighting magic spells, special abilities, and enemy attacks. These smooth perspective patterns were also random, ensuring you rarely saw the same angle twice in one fight. The sequences that did repeat were the elaborate summons. Some of them were close to a minute in length. Your party size was cut down to 3, forcing you to simplify your attack strategies. You also only had 3 items to equip in your inventory: a weapon, armor, and an accessory. This appeared quite restrictive at first, until Barrett revealed the game's ability system, called Materia. These colorful orbs were formed out of crystallized mako, the blood pumping in the planet's veins, called the life stream, and the source of the world's power. Possessing a piece of materia made you spiritually linked to the planet's spirit, and the memories of those who had returned to its source after death. This connection gave you numerous spells and bonuses, similar to espers and relics combined. But you didn't learn these skills, each materia did, and when you swapped their assignments, the experience level traveled with them. Materia leveled on ability points after each battle, and characters got more materia slots as their weapons and armor improved. Job-specific battle behaviors like covering, stealing, and casting spells on multiple targets were now assigned to specific materia. Along with being spiritual power generators, the orbs gave you stat bonuses reflective of their abilities. Like espers, materia also played a major role in the story, as white and black materia became pivotal to the balance of the planet. Black materia cast meteor, to which the only defense was holy, which required white materia. Both these spells had made prior appearances in Final Fantasy, but never had they affected the world so significantly. When your party was pushed to the brink, a new bar began flashing next to their active time battle indicator. When they received damage, it filled up, and at its peak, the attack option was replaced with character-specific limit breaks. You couldn't choose from the whole list, though, and had to assign which of the 4 groups to bring into the fray. You could unleash them the second they were earned, or save them for another battle. Sid hopped back in the pilot seat in 7 as an aggressive aeronaut with dreams of traveling into outer space. His attitude and style was reminiscent of the character's first appearance in 2, and a departure from the older bearded design gamers had met in 3, 4, and 5. He donated the tiny Bronco, a small craft that doubled as a boat after it was shot down. He also welcomed you aboard his Lady Luck, the Highwind, which shared his last name. He took up a lance and aided you in battle for the second time in the series, sharing his pedigree and many abilities with the Dragoon Cane from Final Fantasy IV. Chocobos chirped you across the landscape, but you had to call them by equipping the Chocobo lure materia to bring them into battle. You could then race your newfound pets by entering them in speedways at the Golden Saucer. After you won your first Choco chase, the manager Dio gave you a land-roving buggy that was open to enemy attacks, but chugged over rivers and deserts. The saucer was like Pleasure Island, with several interactive minigames requiring dexterous button selecting. These time trials also emerged in the story, making pivotal moments tense with the fear of getting one step behind. They also ensured the following games would have an equal amount or more